Okay, we're underway. Hi, I'm Larry Johnson. Welcome to Countercurrents. And today we've really been swimming upstream trying to get this connection with Bangladesh and my new dear friend, Cynthia McKinney, former member of the US Congress and the US House of Representatives, now an American expatriate living in Bangladesh and is serving as a professor. Wonderful person. We are kindred spirits upon first meeting. And I'm delighted that she has agreed to talk about the current situation in Bangladesh. And she's brought along two of her students. We'll just call T and M because some of the sensitivities there. So Cynthia, thank you for doing this so much. This is great. So let's start at the beginning. What in the hell is going on?
Well, I can tell you that I was in Syria during U.S. bombing. I was in Libya during U.S. bombing, but I can tell you that I've not ever seen anything quite like what I have just lived through and what the people of Bangladesh are still living through. There's the thrill of victory, and hopefully we won't experience the agony of defeat, but it's still quite possible because of the what can I say? Because of the geostrategic importance of Bangladesh being in the Bay of Bengal, which if you go directly south and then if you go to the east, you've got the Malacca Straits. So this is a very important area. And then on one side of the Bay of Bengal, you have Myanmar. On the other side, you have India, and then in the middle, you have Bangladesh. So if you're looking at President Obama's pivot to Asia, the only place that the United States did not have a presence was in South Asia, because, of course, you know, they have a tremendous presence in West Asia, a tremendous presence in East Asia, but South Asia, and I believe that can be attributed to India's participation in the non-aligned movement. And so the United States just wasn't in this part of Asia. So if you look at the combination of the rechanging of the name from Asia Pacific to the Indo-Pacific region, then you can begin to understand, okay, well, now this is targeted at South Asia. And strangely enough, a new map of South Asia has surfaced. I actually got the map from some of my friends in Myanmar, where Myanmar and parts of India are balkanized. The United States asked the Bangladeshi government probably a generation ago to allow it to place a military base on one of its islands in the Bay of Bengal. And the government said no. And this was actually an issue in the January elections here in Bangladesh. Now, those elections, of course, were not free and fair. The opposition parties boycotted the elections. And so the election cannot be construed to serve as a referendum on the administration of Sheikh Hasina. And so then you can get into the domestic situation that people have endured during the Sheikh Hasina government. And that was, I guess you could say, you had extrajudicial killings, you had human rights violations, you had kidnappings, you have torture. I mean, everything that is not supposed to happen in a democracy was happening here in Bangladesh. And the people of Bangladesh, this is why the student movement became so popular all over the country, because there was never really a referendum on the Sheikh Hasina government at all, because none of the elections, perhaps maybe the first one, that installed them were free and fair. And then the students taught me something that we in the United States have experienced. I had never heard of this term before, but of course, with me being on the ballot in the United States, I've certainly experienced. And what's that term? Night voting is when you go to sleep and there's one candidate who apparently has won, but you wake up the next morning and you find out that someone else has won. That happened to me twice in my own campaign. So I understood immediately when the students used the term night voting. I said, oh, that's extremely descriptive. And it's an example of what we've experienced here. But what I can say before I turn it over to the students is that we've experienced everything from flipping the switch and shutting off the internet, so that in the US, I think there are some parallels to what the Bangladeshi people experienced and what we in the United States might very well experience as we struggle for our own to protect or regain our own sovereignty. So with that, I guess I should introduce two of the students, and they are M and T, and sort of let them introduce themselves and start off by saying what you did last night, and then tell us sort of how you see Bangladesh today and how you see Bangladesh tomorrow, as well as how you saw Bangladesh the day before.
So, before we go to them, just set the stage. What was the government situation 3 days ago, going back to when Sheikh Hasina was elected? What was the issue? Who was backing her?
Well, if you look at sort of the Constitution of Bangladesh, it's a document that's been manipulated. And so since my undergraduate students, I teach them political science. And so basically what we do is we look at the Bangladeshi, we do a lot in the class, but we look at the Bangladeshi Constitution, and then I ask them to tell me what your life is like. Is your life like that Constitution, or have there been some deviations? And of course, there have been lots of deviations, even from the values and principles of the Constitution. Bangladesh Constitution. Bangladesh, of course, as a country, was founded in 1971. And that came after a very brutal separation. Bangladesh used to be East Pakistan when there was Pakistan and India. And then because of certain, I would say, national security issues on both sides facing both parties, you had Israel and India joined together to balkanize Pakistan. And that saw the creation of Bangladesh. And so Bangladesh was founded as a state that had as its principles democracy, its fundamental values, democracy, socialism, secularism. So Bangladesh has been a secular state from its inception. And these young people are Generation Zers, and all of their lives, they've lived in a secular state. So that's a part of the conversation that Bangladeshis have to have, because they're also, at the same time that they're secular, they're also very conservative, and they're also very religious. It's a multi-religious state. It's got Buddhist, Christians, mostly Muslim, and also it's got Hindus. So you've got atheists as well. So you've got the entire spectrum of religions here, and you've got ethnic and racial differences here. So you've got a sort of a diverse population. And what I would say is that this experience has brought all of that diversity together. And I make a distinction between the state and the nation. And so here you could say that 3 days ago, well, maybe 3 months ago, we had a state of many nations, but after the unity that has been found as a result of this struggle that was engaged in by everyone, I would say that the Bangladeshis are well on their way to creating a nation.
Okay. So let's jump to TNM. Go ahead.
Hey Larry, thanks for having us. I'm M. I'm a proud Bangladeshi student, a student who had fought a really big war. One of the students who fought a really big war that Bangladesh actually needed, and yeah, it felt good after we won the war, and we thought things were okay, things gonna go good, but right now Bangladesh is pretty unstable as it's. I would say it's a war child. It's like a newborn baby, and things are getting a bit messier geopolitically, and the whole society is being a bit messed up. Yeah, if I tell you that I just slept just an hour this night, and I woke up, joined the meeting. After finishing this meeting, I'll have to go out on the streets for to do my traffic duty. Like I have to manage the traffic on the roads right after a few hours, a hour, one or two. So you see, I mean, and I'll have to manage it for the whole day. Come again to my home, and then wake up the whole night to guard my whole neighborhood against as there are many dacoits and robbery happening, like mass robbery and vandalism. To stop that, the neighborhood has to come up, and we are waking up. We are awake the whole night, and then again go on the street. We are going on the streets again to control the traffic, cleaning the roads and all these. So yeah,
I was going to say, thank God you're young. You know, if you're old like me, you couldn't do that. So.
Yeah, thank God we're young. Thank God we're young. And but then again, I mean, yeah, I just did it for 2 days, and it's still quite hectic, like managing all these things all together. Like, can you just imagine like sleeping just 1 hour the whole day, no sleep at all? So yeah, it's being a bit tough, but then again, it's for my country. It's my responsibility to do it. So I mean, at the end of the day, it feels good that I'm doing something for my country.
Of course, actually, you're learning what mothers with newborn babies go through. You know?
Yeah, surely.
So, what was the triggering event? What sort of brought things to a head from your perspective?
Okay, so if I just start from the very beginning of this whole 15 years of rule and how it was, just a small brief that how it was, and just a small brief of how it is now.
Okay.
15 within this 15 years, people of Bangladesh couldn't speak up with their will. If they wanted to speak against the government, if they wanted to speak against the ruling party, they used to be abducted. They used to be killed. They used to be brass fired by their law enforcement agencies, which used to work under the ruling party government, the ruling party basically, and their leaders. And the law enforcers also basically used to be controlled by the law and ruling party goons. The Bangladesh Student League, which is actually the student political wing of the ruling party, and the student politics here in Bangladesh is pretty dirty. And in almost every public university, the student politics, it's so messed up and it's so dirty that everybody got frustrated. The student leaders, the ruling party student leaders, used to mock around people. They used to torture the students. They used to sabotage their privacy, and they used to do every sort of disgusting stuff you can think about. Like, it was every university had a torture cell, and the proctor or the vice chancellor they had to do anything against it, as this was a party. This was a group of students who were under the power of the ruling party. So it was a full-on dictatorship. You see that, you can't speak, you can't go anywhere without the permission of the ruling party. You can't do anything without the permission of the ruling party. If I just tell you that yesterday I went to the market to buy some brinjals. Here in the brinjals was maybe
Excuse
18.
me. He's talking about eggplant, what we call
Eggplant.
eggplant. They call
Okay,
brinjal. Okay,
eggplant.
go ahead.
So the eggplant. So basically, the eggplant we used to buy even 5 days ago or 6 days ago costed 80 takas, and now it's 40 taka or 50 taka. So you see, there was a syndicate in the market. So people were so frustrated about it that day by day the price used to go higher and higher and higher. So it was a dictatorship. In past this 15 years, Hasina and her ruling party alone reportedly laundered $93 billion, reportedly. And even there are some leaders whose house are being raided by commoners, and they're finding baggages full of dollars and takas. So you see, this was a whole. It was a peak of fascism. It was a peak of dictatorship. It was a peak of, people suffering from a very big issue and a very big problem.
So-
Now, think.
Well, let me ask a question. Was there a power behind the throne, so to speak? Was there an outside country that was pouring
Yes.
money in, funding this, helping the ruling party stay in place, or
So
was it a local organized
Bangladeshi
criminal
government-
groups? Go ahead.
So Bangladeshi government, basically, if I tell you, the ruling party Awami League was heavily funded and helped by India and its authority and its intelligence, highly funded and highly helped by it. And India has always helped Awami League throughout the years after 1971, and it has always kept a good relationship with Awami League after 1971. So. So after Hasina came to power again in 2007 or 2008, there was an incident called the BDR incident. The BDR mutinied against the government, and they knew about the fascism, and they're gonna face if Hasina prevails. So they mutinied, and Hasina knew about it. And after the mutiny, the BDR men, they started killing their higher up officers, and Hasina knew about it, but Hasina didn't ask the Bangladesh army to help her stop the mutiny. Rather, she went to Delhi. She sent a letter to Delhi and asked Delhi to help her. So army was pretty frustrated as well at her after that. And after the mutiny stopped, Hasina was questioned by Bangladeshi military, Bangladeshi army personnel that you knew about it, and why didn't you tell us? Many of our officers died. And Hasina didn't have anything to say. And after that, she started vanishing some army officers. She started making some army officers resign. She started abducting some people who started speaking against it. And this went on and on and on. And there people started to fear Hasina more and more and more all these years. And if you ask me that what actually brought us to this phase that we revolted, so basically it was us, the students, who had the courage and who actually gathered the courage to stand up against her and stand up in front of her and say, okay, no worries. I've had enough of this fascism. I've had enough of this torture and all, and it's not going to happen anymore. I'm going to stand in front of you
Larry,
if it's needed.
Yeah.
What M is saying is fascism.
Yeah. No, I understand. I picked that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so as I was saying that the students gathered up their courage, and they stood up in front of their guns. As of today, within this 1 month of period, like from 16th of July to 5th of August, more than 1,000 people died. More than 1,000 people died, and most of them were students. And they're all killed by Hasina and her police and her law enforcing agencies, which were totally controlled by her and her body.
And am I correct that within Bangladesh, the army is a separate entity from the police and let's call them the
Okay,
security
about
services?
that, army was a separate entity until 2009. After 2009's BDR mutiny that I have mentioned, some of the army officers started speaking up, and Hasina started making some army officers resign who used to go against her, and started abducting some of the army officers who used to go against her, and in their places, she started putting her men men loyal to her, and build an army loyal to her own. So all these years we had an army or the army chiefs who were loyal to her. But lastly, at the end, like this year, I mean, the army officer, though that army officer is a relative to her, he revolted against her, and he said that no, ma'am, this atrocity and the killings cannot go on. Maybe you have to resign. And he also said that coming to the interaction of the normal citizen, the rage of normal citizen. So yeah, it was a forceful resignation that the citizen of Bangladesh made her do after the 15 long years of dictatorship. And yeah, as I see it as a win, though, but there's a lot we'll have to still work on. A lot, like the geopolitical situation, making the citizen understand that students are the future, making the citizens understand that the students are the vision of tomorrow, and they'll have to come up sooner, as soon as possible, as the power.
Now, and maybe T can jump in on this with respect to the military. First, who supplies the Bangladeshi military? Is there supplies from within, or is there an overseas benefactor that's providing training and equipment?
It's an open secret that obviously India is helping a lot, but I would rather say they're not helping, they're more like exploiting. It's like a king and they are just taking advantages from us, and in return, they make sure this past 15 years that Hasina remains in power. So
Okay.
that's what has been happening. Our second largest seaport that has been given to India, they can rule it as they wish. They can use our train lines. There are so many factors. They are just exploiting. It's not as he said, that a friendly relationship. I wouldn't say that it's a friendly relationship anymore, because if it's a friendly, you give and you take there's a balance. But in Bangladesh and India right now, there's no balance. They're just taking from us, and obviously in return they have to help Hasina to remain in power. So that's why they are helping them, as Hasina controls the used to control, you control the army, police, and everything.
Now, with respect to the officers, is there a military academy in Thai? So you come out of, let's say, what we call high school, through the 12th grade, and you say I'm going to the university, or can you make an option to go to a military school to be trained as an officer? Do students have a choice? And
Yes, we have a choice. If someone wants, they can, after high school, they can apply, and if they are selected, they'll go for the training.
okay. And now, what about the average soldier in the Bangladeshi army? And the reason I'm focused so much on the military, because it really was, it seems, the military that finally took
there's
control.
a thing. Right now, in this past 15 years, if you want to get a higher position or promotion in military, you have to be one of the Hasina's people. You have to do as so. The people who got promotions and those who are in the high ranks, they're all under like influenced by her. So the thing was, we are not saying that all the militaries are bad or they were killing us, but they had to, because their senior officers are like the chief of staff of Bangladesh right now. He is Sheikh Hasina's brother-in-law. So you see, they have to actually follow the orders. They didn't have really an option.
Now, do our youth, the Bangladeshi youth, are they required to perform military service, or is it a volunteer force?
Oh, it is voluntary.
Okay.
We don't.
So, what's the reaction now of the students with the military effectively in charge? Is it still the Hasina crew running things?
Before Hasina resigned, the one day before Hasina resigned, the military said that they are going to support us, and they really supported us. They in various places they protected us from Hasina's personal goons, and so after they take charge, they are helping us in all kind of ways. So right now we're happy with them. Mostly people are angry with the police because like until the very last moment they didn't stop killing us, but the army stopped before, so they helped us, and now they are helping us as the police officers are not working, so they haven't joined their offices yet. So the army officers, in fact, like 2 hours ago, there were some vendors in my area and they tried to rob various houses, and we were all just trying to protect our houses. We were like finding them where they were hiding, and it was a chaos. But the army we didn't expect that would they help, but we called and they said like, okay, we are sending a crew, don't panic. And they came, they helped us. So right now we're happy. I would say we are happy. They are helping.
Okay.
Okay, if I just give you a small brief on the void that why police is not there. So basically, while the protest, Hasina used police as I've said that Hasina has put her own men in every single sector of the law enforcing agencies, like the upper sectors, right? So in police, the upper positions are acquired by people who are loyalists to Hasina. So basically, Hasina literally ordered and told her loyalists, people who are in the police, that they should be shooting on the protesters if it outrages or if it goes on. So the police opened fire at the protesters. They fired tear shells, which were date over. They fired rubber bullets. They fired real bullets. They even fired from the choppers. They even sniped as well. So they even ordered. Hasina even ordered the Bangladesh Border Guard (BGB) and also the army to open fire with a semi-automatic rifle. So you see, Bangladeshi people within this 1 month has a rage on police specifically. And Hasina also ordered her police to block raid every night. Like a block raid, if I explain what block raid is, police used to come in every area every night, and they used to knock on the door, and they used to see if there is any student in the house. If there is, they used to come in, they used to check our phones, and if they find anything, any picture or anything related to the protest, they used to take them up and arrest them and lock them up. And they didn't even tell the relatives or their parents that where they're kept. So people and students were really frustrated on the police and its forces and its people, as most of the killings were done by police while the protests, and at night as well, and most of the arrests were done at night as well. Even people couldn't walk on the roads at this time. Their phones were checked. They were harassed massively by the students. So people had this frustration against police. So after on 5th of August, after our independence, people got so outrageous at the police. They started beating them whenever they see them. They see them on the road. So police became so police had this fear in them, and they became so scared that most of the higher position or higher officials of the police, they're now underground. They are not nowhere to be found. And as this is a chaos in the police department right now, the junior officers has gone underground as well, and many of the junior officers has said that no, we won't be joining our duties before our security and some of our demands are being met. So there is no such thing right now in Bangladesh as Bangladesh police. That's why we students are going out there, controlling the traffic and looking after our neighborhood and all at night. So this is the landscape of Bangladesh police right now. And as you know, army isn't trained to be on the civilian unrest, right?
Right,
They're
right.
trained to be on war or in border or in unrest that goes beyond the borders, right? So you can't, condemn this kind of things, the civil unrest, with army so easily, and army isn't much trained for it. So this is the policing landscape right now that's prevailing in Bangladesh.
Yeah, it is.
So
Certainly.
Larry,
Literally
Go ahead.
killing police, but that's not because like for the past 15 days or something. They're doing it for the past 15 years of harassment they have done. So all the things, police have not only killed people, even army has shot us, but we are very friendly with the army. But the police, as we associate with police a lot more, so we have seen in the past 15 years that how much they have. Even if you are a small business owner and you have a shop, you have to pay some money to the police in order to open your shop and things like that. So for that, people just got crazy that finally we are free, and so many police has been killed. We are not supporting this, but at the same time we understand where people are coming from, why
Yeah.
they're attacking the police.
so
Cynthia, go
Larry,
ahead.
I just wanted to illustrate that, or to build on the illustration that M has given us in terms of the reach of Sheikh Hasina into the depths of the army and of the police. Now, imagine every sector of your government is exactly the same way. And so this is what actually kicked off the student protests, was that every aspect of the job sector, for the public job sector, was controlled by the Hasina government, and it was entrenched. Then on top of that, you had the quota system that then gave her the opportunity to select who would get this quota and who would get that quota. The
Right.
quotas were from the freedom fighters who helped to liberate the country in 1971 to physically disabled people, to the indigenous people, to women also had a quota. So there was this quota system that started out at 7%, but it ballooned to 56%
Wow.
of the public sector jobs. And so then, of course, you get this kind of perversion, which all former colonies experience, where the best and the brightest, well, they didn't stay in their own countries. The best and the brightest and the strongest would go and build other countries. And that was looked at with prestige. Well, we call that the brain drain. And these students didn't want to do that. And so imagine if Bangladesh has been experiencing 8% annual growth every time, every year that I have been here since 2014. And that was in large measure despite the government, not because of the government.
Right.
So the students are saying, well, we don't want to leave our country. We don't want to leave our communities. We don't want to leave our families. We want to stay here and we want to build Bangladesh. And so the cronyism that and the nepotism that became standard practice under Hasina, the students rebelled. And then, but that first rebellion against the quota system occurred in 2018. So this has been a long simmering problem that was not resolved. And then it kicked back up again when the equivalent, they call it the High Court, we would call it the Supreme Court, decided that the quota system was here to stay, was in Bangladesh to stay. And then that sort of restarted everything. It was going through the legal processes. And so then the protests started again, the quota reform movement or the non-discrimination movement. And the turning point when I think everybody in Bangladesh said enough is enough, even though you had a lot of people who already supported the students in terms of the quota reform movement. But when Sheikh Hasina delivered the order to shoot and kill, and then the police actually did it, and people were shocked and stunned because this is not the kind of thing that happens. You know, in the United States, we have police killings all the time, but this is not something.
Yeah.
If you were not a part of the political sector, you know, that this was not something that you experienced, but they saw it, and it turned the tide. And I have to say that in terms of your question about is this a color revolution, and I know you want to get to that later,
right?
But I just want to say that this is all very organic. It started out very organic. Now, what it is today, we can have that discussion. And then the other thing I'd like to say is to answer in terms of your question, in terms of the military. China supplies the military. I would presume they might have some Russian weapons as well. And India actually had asked Sheikh Hasina for a 25-year sole source agreement, and she said no to that.
So I was trying to find out is there an outside power that's trying to influence and control the direction of things, or is Bangladesh considered really too small for everybody except for India, since it's right on its border, to not meddle? Is there? You've seen any evidence of outside meddling beyond India?
Absolutely. Now, I don't know that the students would, and I know that there are some things that you and I have discussed earlier that nobody was aware of. But the United States was very interested in establishing a military base here. And of course, you have, right, next to Bangladesh, you have Myanmar.
Yeah.
And north of Myanmar, directly on the Myanmar border, is China. So if the United States wants to engage in an anti-China blockade, this would be the perfect place to do that. Right. And so this hence the geostrategic importance of Bangladesh is magnified now that certain elements inside the United States want to declare war against China.
Is there any chance, has Bangladesh expressed any interest in joining BRICS?
Absolutely, yes, they have. And so Bangladesh early on wanted to join BRICS. And the foreign policy motto of the People's Republic of Bangladesh is friendship to all, malice toward none. And they basically do have that kind of face or personality, international personality, that they are very active in peacekeeping. Unfortunately, the police use some United Nations vehicles to oppress, suppress, and actually kill the students in this movement. And so therefore, there's a petition now to stop the military from being able to participate in United Nations peacekeeping operations
I know
as well.
I'm thinking back during my time at State. We provided training through the Anti-Terrorism Assistance Training Program to Bangladesh, but I don't recall exactly what the nature of that support was. Usually, it'd be training police and handling everything from improvised explosive devices to doing post-blast investigations to SWAT team, creating SWAT teams. The reason I'm always wondering on the color revolution front is the United States has been so very active in both Ukraine and Georgia and other countries around the world. I didn't know if they were getting their hands dirty in Bangladesh as well. If T or M have seen any evidence of of that kind of activity.
Okay, about that, till now, I mean, we suspect, I mean, some of us, not all the students, some of the students do suspect that there is involvement. There is an involvement of, if I say CIA and other intelligence agencies, or if I say US authority, in Bangladeshi authority, and Bangladeshi fascism that has been going in past 15 years, or even if I say the time before, US authority had some more or less a grip on Bangladesh. Even one of my friends, I had a friend 2 to 3 years ago. I didn't meet him after that. 2 to 3 years ago, I had this friend in my cybersecurity class, and his father was a pretty big brigadier general of Bangladesh. So he was saying at one point of our gossip that there are quite a few black sites of CIA. So I got really interested about that, and I thought, okay, maybe there might be CIA involvement, or maybe there might be US authority involvement in Bangladesh. But then again, there is no lethal proof against it, or there was no lethal proof against it that this was there had been a grip of USA in Bangladesh.
Yeah, because usually the incentive with these color revolutions is if you have. Take the case of Ukraine. You had a Ukrainian president that was perceived as pro-Russian and was not terribly keen to get fully into bed with the Europeans. And so then CIA and MI6 helped engineer that color revolution to throw out the pro-Russian character and install subsequent presidents who were really loyal to Europe and to the West. Have we seen anything like that in Bangladesh, or are they just sort of like, I guess what's not clear from from my position, and I know a lot of people in America, they're not really sure which side is which.
Okay, so about that, from 1971 to 2024, Bangladesh had a really diversified political history, if I say. Like there has been many hand changes in political power. Like once there was Sheikh Mujib with Awami League just right after the independence. Then after in 1975, after he was assassinated, Major General Ziaur Rahman came in, and after that BNP came into power. And after Major General Ziaur Rahman was also assassinated, Senate, Ershad came in, and Ershad formed Jatiyo Party. It's also a political power. Major General Ziaur Rahman and Ershad were two of them were army personnel, and after Ershad, there came BNP, the party that Major General Ziaur Rahman formed before dying. And after BNP, there was Awami League again, and then BNP again, and then after that, we saw a 15-year of regime of Awami League and the faces Sheikh Hasina. So the history has been so diversified and so. I mean, there was no constant
Right.
of any particular party so that we could think about it. But now of today, I mean, when we are seeing that Awami League somehow managed to run its dictatorship over this country for 15 long years, maybe there was involvement of US. There might be an involvement of US in while staying in her power.
Okay.
So, Larry, let me just let your audience know that, the bad guys are here. And we know the bad guys are here. Wherever there's a U.S. embassy, there's going to be some bad guys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not just housed in the U.S. embassy. So, for example, Sheikh Hasina would meet every year that she would go to the United Nations. She would meet with the World Economic Forum folks. So you've got World Economic Forum here. You've got the CIA and all of its tentacles here. And you've got a booming economy, like I said, 8% growth every year. And so you've got the Hasina government was forced to take out a $4.5 billion IMF loan. The IMF just recently said, oh, yeah, we've got some more help for you if you want it. Well, they didn't really need that, especially now that economies around the world are de-dollarizing. They didn't need the $4.5 billion, but I'm sure that there was the assets of Sheikh Hasina, the ill-gotten assets have been frozen by the United States. So, there was some squeezing of the Hasina regime by the United States in order to get what it wanted. It didn't get everything. And so the United States was not happy. The United States and India have entered into a condominium relationship. You know that India has signed 3 military agreements with the United States, which is unprecedented. And Modi gets his military weapons. A lot of particularly the drones, come from Israel. And so India participates in the so-called Quad with Japan and Australia and India and the United States. So the United States has done a lot to build inroads into India, particularly under Modi, that it never had before. India was solidly in the camp of with Russia, and now you've seen that Modi is playing the United States against Russia in many respects, and is taking advantage, defying the U.S. on one hand with the Russian oil, but accommodating the U.S. on the other hand. So they do have this sort of relationship. But I will just go ahead and put it on the table that the students now have decided that they will form an interim government, and that interim government will be appointed, I believe, by the president, and that's supposed to happen tomorrow, your time, but tonight, our time, tonight. And then that will be a 15-person, I think it could be a little bit more, a 15-person interim government, and it's supposed to be temporary. The fact that the students chose as the leader of that interim government, I think he is actually called the chief advisor or the counselor, sort of like what Aung San Suu Kyi had just next door in Myanmar, a chief advisor or something like that. But the problem is that the person that they chose, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, who is very celebrated in the West and very well known to the West, is also a U.S. deep state actor. And if you go into the WikiLeaks documents from the Hillary Clinton emails, you will find that approximately 80% of those emails pertain to the relationship that the Clinton Foundation has with Dr. Yunus. This, of course, is very troubling to people like me because I am watching the movements of the deep state. And the last thing I want to see is that an organic student movement that was politically successful in every way possible, defying all of the odds, then be usurped by sort of nefarious characters in the end.
Was China ever heavily involved with trying to cultivate intelligence ties? The reason I ask that is, if I'm looking at it from China's perspective, they'd want to, and given their contentious relationship with India prior to BRICS, they very well may have wanted to make sure they had some intelligence assets there, or at least could control some of the activity in Bangladesh as a way to weaken India or keep monitoring India. Was that ever a thing, or is that one more example of the Chinese not acting like the imperialists that they are portrayed as in the West?
Well, China donated 2 submarines to the Bangladesh Navy, and it caused quite a stir. First of all, they offered it, and secondly, that the Bangladeshis accepted them. So that was something part of the balancing act that was necessary in order to live up to the international personality of Bangladesh's friendship to all. Right. Now, what we know, you and I know, that even the students, because I didn't tell anybody, but we know that there was interference to begin an aggression against Myanmar, to encourage Bangladesh to begin an aggression against Myanmar. And that was to block the Belt and Road initiatives that are within Myanmar itself and that come right up to the Bay of Bengal. And then, of course, the Myanmar military government, which basically was when Aung San Suu Kyi so-called had democracy in Myanmar, basically that situation was that the United States Embassy was running Myanmar. And all of the bad guys, remember, George Soros even bragged about the amount of money that he put into the color revolution, the saffron revolution in Myanmar. So we know that wasn't really about democracy. That was about raping and pillaging Myanmar, which is a very wealthy country. And of course, utilizing its geostrategic positioning. Now, the Myanmar government just a few days ago lost a battle with one of the, they have 135 different tribes, 135 different languages, and they have been armed. So now what you've got is an extremely volatile situation in Myanmar that could see the balkanization of Myanmar. And of course, you've got the Rohingya situation here in Bangladesh. We could see the balkanization of Bangladesh. And then if we look at this map from the International Crisis Group, which I have always regarded with some suspicion, what we can see is that if we presume that this is coming from some intelligence background, right? That what they want is the balkanization of Bangladesh, the balkanization of Myanmar, and then the United States will get the military base in this part of Asia that it has been seeking for the last generation.
What about the presence of Russia in Bangladesh? Have they been, again, is it someplace where the Russians have made an outreach, or are they just sort of saying we've got too many other fish to fry, and so we'll focus on those?
So Russia is here as well. Russia is here because they are building a nuclear power plant here.
Oh, okay.
And so the Russians are here. The Russians, but the Russians and the Chinese have not meddled in the same way that the United States meddles.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the one hand, what we in the West are told is that the Belt and Road Initiative is just an imperial design to allow China to indebt countries. Well, even if you look at Sri Lanka's debt, 90% of it was to the West and only 9% was to China. So but all of this gets sort of wrapped up. India basically had a colony in Bangladesh. India could always count on making sure that its nationals had jobs, and their jobs were always here in Bangladesh as well.
So we're coming up on just about an hour. We got about 15 minutes left for a run out of time. So I wanted to hear from M and T. What's next? What do you see? What would you like to see? What do you think is going to happen in the coming weeks and months?
Right now. Okay, T, go on. Sorry.
Personally, my whole life, I have never seen democracy. We have read about it. We have seen videos, this, that, but I have never experienced it. Just yesterday, my mom was telling that she never gave and vote. So I said, why? I asked why. She was like, there was never a fair election. So why should I go? So we have never seen democracy. We have been always suppressed. And so now I just really want a new beginning, that it should truly be a new beginning. We want to experience a democratic country. People are saying we want Europe. We want to make Bangladesh like Sri Lanka, this, that. But what I want to make Bangladesh like Bangladesh, what truly Bangladesh is, what our ancestors gave their life for. So that's what I hope for, and hopefully we will get to that, inshallah, one day.
Great, thanks. Em, what do you think?
And okay, so democracy, as T just mentioned, a part of a democracy, that a fair and free election. But to me, democracy is living freely, is speaking up freely, is standing up for myself freely, so that if I want, I can be anything in my country. If I want, I can be a leader in my country. If I want, I can speak up and go to the parliament in my country. If I want, I can go up to the home minister and speak up to him about an atrocity or about an injustice that's happening in my country. I don't have to fear. My ancestors, the Mukti Jodhas, or the freedom fighters in 1971, freed my country so that the generations afterwards, so that we can live happily, we can speak up for ourselves, and we don't have to live under anyone that we experienced in past 15 years. And after I was born, I have only seen people fighting around in my country, fighting for power, fighting for the government, fighting for the chair, this and that, laundering money and whatnot. I'm just frustrated and so upset about it right now that I don't want to see anything. I don't want any student politics in my universities, in my country, that has been sabotaging students' privacy and students' personal life and their mental state as well. I don't want to see any kind of atrocity done by my ministers, and I want my ministers and I want my people to connect with me, and for that, students have to come up, and we are coming up. We are showing my country that, okay, this is now the new generation, and it's our time to come up, and it's our time to hand hand the power over to us. We are capable of it. If we can oust a fascist government within a month, we can also make a system that can run a perfect and a beautiful country. And lastly, I would want to pay my respect and remember the martyrs who have died within this whole revolution. Martyr Mugdho, martyr Abu Said, Tanvir, and Farhan, the small kid Ria who was shot by chopper while playing on the rooftop, and many other martyrs. And we have our deep condolences and mad respect for them. For them, this was possible. Thank you.
Great. Cynthia, you want to, well, we'll give you the valedictorian speech here. I think you're muted.
Yeah. So I'm not going to give a speech, but I'm just going to say that I want what my students want. And I know that my students can be the leaders that Bangladesh needs today and tomorrow.
Well, I know that with you there, they've got a good role model and example. You know, you're one of those people that, you and I are about the same age, except you look 20 years younger.
Yeah.
But you're a seasoned veteran of politics. You've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And but I think what's sort of remarkable about Bangladesh is the way the youth are standing up and taking a part, as opposed to we got a different picture of a lot of the youth here in America who are not as engaged, who are lost in a cloud of marijuana smoke, and as opposed to saying, hey, we want to have a democratic republic here. We want people to be treated fairly. We want everybody to have an equal opportunity to succeed, not based upon what they look like, but based upon what they do. And so
that's right.
What we'll do is I plan to try to reconvene this group in about a month. We'll see where we stand. But meantime, this is Countercurrents. I'm Larry Johnson. Please like and subscribe and pass the word around. We're trying to build the channel. Thank you to T, thank you to M, and most importantly, thank you, Cynthia. You're a blessing, dear.
Thank you so much, Larry, for having us.
Okay, I'm going to hit the end button here.